Welcome to episode number 3 of Act As If. Act As If is all about embodying the person, embodying the version that you want to be, embodying the version of you that already has the things that you want to have in this life. Because if there's something that you want, if there's something that you want to experience in this life, if there's a goal that you're moving towards, for most of us, what our goals are about ultimately are about how we want to feel. And so what's really important in life is realizing that the way you want to feel isn't on the other side of having the things that you want to have. The way that you want to feel is available to you right now in this moment. And that's what I'm going to help you embody in this show. I'm the Midlife Mystic. I help creative people, neurodivergent people, out-of-the-box thinkers embody deeper confidence. That's what I'm here for, to teach you how to be more confident in your life. And my own journey has been a journey of going from deep insecurity. I wrote a newsletter yesterday about how in my 20s and 30s, I worked in advertising, and at one particular job, I worked with a bunch of the coolest people. And whenever it was lunchtime every day, I would go and I would hide in a stairwell or the bathroom, or like go heads down at my desk so that no one would see me, or if they did see me, think that I was just so deeply focused on what I was doing that I couldn't break focus. Why? My biggest fear was that someone was going to invite me out to lunch and that I was going to have to sit there and have conversation with someone. There was nothing more terrifying to me. I get where I'm getting worked up even thinking about how I used to feel about having conversations, because conversations just scared the living crap out of me. I was so insecure that I wanted to run away, and I did run away. I remember at one point I had bought a Volkswagen Vanagon, and I left and I just drove across the country, and I kept driving thinking that I can drive away from feeling this way that I feel, and I wanted to be a musician. I'd recorded an album, and I imagined that being a musician and just getting up on stage and playing music would help me somehow get away from this feeling I felt of just terror around being in conversations with people. This deep insecurity. I hated myself, and I didn't really realize it. I just knew that I struggled so deeply, and it limited me in every area of my life. Even though I was doing pretty well in my career, I was doing well in the ad industry because I was a talented designer. I was doing animation and art direction, and I was really good at that, but I struggled beyond what you can imagine, struggled with the social aspects of work. And I went through a journey over many years, and it started when I got married and I had kids. Thankfully, I met my wife and I got married, and that really pushed me to realize I need to heal this area of my life. I need to learn how to get more confident. I need to learn how to be able to sit down to lunch with someone and not feel like I'm gonna die. And so what did I do? I acted as if, and this was really the journey for me, because I spent my life in therapy. I spent my life going to self-development seminars, going to healers, trying to fix myself, trying to heal myself. And I was always trying to figure it out. I was always trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I could never solve it in my own head. There was no book I read that could actually solve my confidence issues. And what I eventually realized is I need to get out there in the world, and I need to do things in the world that the confident version of me would do. And at one point I became a dating coach. This is almost embarrassing to admit, because I learned that I was crippled in this area of my life. I wanted to meet a partner. I wanted to have a relationship. And I couldn't. I knew I'm a good looking guy. I've got a lot to offer, but I just couldn't have conversations because I would freeze. And what I learned was to act as if. I learned that if I just walked up to a beautiful woman that I wanted to talk to and I acted as if I was that confident guy, she would respond to me that way. And we would get into a conversation. And I met my wife at a yoga retreat. We were at a yoga retreat. She was the most beautiful woman in this, she's on the other side of the yoga studio. I'm like, oh my God, I have to know that woman. And when there was a break, I went over and I talked to her, and she responded to me, and we ended up going on a hike together, and the rest was history. Now we have 2 kids together. But throughout the last 12 years of my life, which is, I met my wife 12 years ago. And throughout that stage of my life, I would say my last decade of my life has been about finding the confidence that I always sought to have. And the way I did it was acting as if, taking those chances. And the key is when you see those windows, like when I saw my wife on the other side of that yoga studio, or years later when I got an offer for a job that was being in charge of design for an organization of 1,000 people, one of the biggest companies in the world. Talk about visibility. Talk about stepping into a position where you have to have confidence. I stepped in. I said, I'm going to do it. Did it scare the living crap out of me? Yes. Did it produce anxiety in my body that made me feel like my blood was boiling? I don't know if that's the right analogy. Yes. Okay. Did I feel like I was stepping through a fire every time, whether it was when I went over to talk to my wife, or when I took this job, or whether I stepped into a difficult meeting where I had to present something and be seen as a confident leader? Did it scare me to step over that threshold I had to step over every time that I needed to become the confident version of me? Scare the living crap out of me. But here's what I learned, is that intensity of feeling that you feel when you step into becoming the confident version of you, when you step into acting as if, whether it's going to talk to someone that you're attracted to, whether it's taking on a job, whether it's leading a meeting, that intensity doesn't actually last that long. And if you can learn to step through it, step through the fire, you find that you emerge on the other side of it as a version of yourself that is the version of yourself that you've always wanted to be, the confident version of yourself, the self-assured version of yourself, the version of yourself that knows your value and your worth and who you are and where you're going and what you want in this life and isn't afraid to go and get it. Or if you are afraid, that you still do it anyway. So that's what Act As If is all about. And now I'm here making these videos, helping others. I have courses. I have a program I created called Kumara. It's a 5-step method for becoming more confident. I teach it in my newsletter on Substack, so you can click the link in my bio to find me there. I also do one-on-one work with people, and I would be honored to work with you. If you struggle with confidence in any way, Kumara will transform your life. It will change your approach to business. It will change your approach to life. It will change the way you show up in relationships. And what it is about at the core is learning to act as if. So thanks for joining me. This is the 3rd episode of a show that I've created called Act As If, because I've always wanted to be the host of my own show. I've just had this fantasy in my head of me hosting a show. I love watching podcasts. I love shows like David Letterman and old school like Johnny Carson and just these guys who had shows, and even Oprah, not all about guys, obviously, but I just love that. I'm drawn to that idea of being someone who has a show, because you know what? Here's the thing. Here's one of the really important things. I was terrified of conversations throughout my life. But what do I love doing? I love having conversations. I love talking about things that I'm passionate about. I love connecting with people. And so the thing I was most afraid of was actually the thing that I most wanted to do. Isn't there kind of an interesting irony there? I think so. And I'll tell you why conversations were so terrifying for me. Because as a kid growing up, my mic just lit up red, so I don't know what that means, but hopefully you can hear me okay. But as a kid growing up, we didn't have conversations in my childhood home. We didn't talk about anything. And there were some really important things that we needed to talk about, because we had some really tragic things happen in my family. My father, my biological father, took his own life when I was 4 years old. And then my mom got remarried to a guy who was very hostile throughout the rest of my childhood. And we didn't talk about any of it. And so I spent a childhood incredibly burdened by very difficult emotions. And so did everyone around me. So did my mother, so did my siblings, so did the rest of my extended family. but we carried these things inside of us. We didn't talk about them. And so I grew up learning that you don't talk about things. You present an image as if everything is okay. Present an image to the world that you're doing better than you are actually doing. And so for me, being in a group felt like I had to show up a certain way. I had to present an appearance that I am together, that I am confident, about presenting an appearance of confidence. And it's important to note, confidence is not about an appearance of confidence. Confidence isn't about standing up straight and holding yourself a certain way. Confidence is really about who you are on a deeper level and how you feel about yourself. That's true confidence. And so I grew up learning to project an image of confidence. And I looked like a cool guy. I had long, beautiful hair as a teenager. All the girls loved me, even though I didn't really have much confidence. And it makes me sad, honestly, to think about, because I missed out on so much throughout my life because I didn't have more confidence. And this is one of the reasons I'm motivated to be here and help other people with confidence. Authentic confidence, not posturing confidence, not acting confident, not trying to appear confident, but actually feeling confident deeply inside of yourself. And so because we didn't have conversations growing up, because we didn't talk about feelings, because we never opened up about the ways we were struggling, I held those things inside of me. And I never talked about the things that I most needed to talk about. And as a result, I never felt confident. So if you want to feel more confident in your life, what's one of the best things you can do? Start out by saying, I don't feel that confident. And I want to challenge you, if you're watching this, to share something in the comments that you don't feel confident about. There's a quote by I think he's a doctor of psychology named Dan Siegel, and he says, name it to tame it. Name it to tame it means if there's something that's eating you up inside, something that is causing you stress and struggle, as soon as you name it, it reduces the stress, because naming it turns on the more analytical part of your brain, which can overshadow your fear centers in your brain. You feel less afraid. So I want to invite you to take something that you're challenged with or something you're not confident with, even if it's just, I don't feel confident as a person, and write it, share it in the comments, and see how it feels to put it out there. Open up. I want to encourage you and challenge you to open up about something, maybe something that you've never shared, something that's limited you in your life. And by putting it out there, you're speaking it, you're letting it go, because there's no shame. There's no shame in lacking confidence. And that's an important thing that I wish someone had told me a long time ago, is that there's no shame. And most importantly, it's not your fault. If you lack confidence, if you carry a lot of insecurity or self-doubt, it's not your fault. Most likely these things are related to what you went through when you were younger and experiences you've had throughout your life that are not healed within you. So if you want to be more confident, start by being more honest. Start by opening up. Find someone in your life that you can open up to and say, I'm struggling with this. And maybe it's not that you need advice, and maybe be clear about that. You can even say, I don't necessarily need advice, because a lot of the time we don't open up, because as soon as we open up, people start giving us advice. Well, you should do this. You should do affirmations. You should do this course that I did because it really helped me. Be clear about what you want, because sometimes what we need is just to speak something, to name it, to tame it. And so try that in your life. If there's something you're struggling with, call a friend and say, hey, I was wondering if I could talk to you about something. And before I do, I just wanted to tell you, I don't really need advice. I just want to be able to get it out. I wanted to be able to talk about this thing and maybe know that I'm not alone in this. Because there's nothing wrong with what you feel. There's nothing wrong with you, and you haven't failed in any way. So I'm going to leave you with that today. I want to invite you to open up about something that you've been challenged with, whether it's confidence issues, whether it's anxiety, whether it's something that you're worried isn't going to go the way you want it to be in your life. Sometimes we get afraid that if we speak it, if I'm afraid that I'm going to fail on this thing I'm working on, that I hold it inside, because it's almost like I'm afraid that if I speak it, it's going to make it happen. it's not going to make it happen. What's going to be more likely to make it happen is if you don't speak it, because then it's going to spiral and circle inside of you and cause you suffering. And then your unconscious is going to drive you. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So take the things that are inside of you, speak them, give voice to them, name it to tame it. Write it in the comments, share it with a friend, and look forward to supporting you. If you want to work together, please check out my website, whatiskumara.com. Check out my newsletter. I would love to help you embody more confidence in whatever you're working on, whether that's wanting to manifest love in your life, whether that is wanting to experience greater success in your career, or just feel more empowered in how you greet your life. So thank you so much for watching episode 3 of Act As If. Really honored and grateful to have you here. And I want to encourage you to act as if, because speaking it, saying it is just part of it. And the other part of it is knowing that you have the power within you to show up today as who you want to be. You have the power to take the actions that the confident version of you would take. And maybe that action is opening up about the fact that you don't feel confident. I have a lot of things in my life where I don't feel confident. I don't feel 100% confident making this video right now, if I'm being honest with you, but I'm doing it because I'm acting as if. I'm acting as if I'm someone who has my own show. So hopefully you enjoyed watching this. Please, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for having the courage to be you and having the courage to step into something new in your life. I'm going to be doing this every day for 30 days. So please subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you tomorrow.